my mom took she maxed out her credit to fund me because I sold her the idea of trading. This is gonna work.
There were 2 accounts that you had, and you ran through both phase 1 and phase 2 without any failure.
When I got there, I realized that I knew a bit too much because I already consumed so much information, like a year in. So now all this time I was hustling, trying to use my money to make it work, but it didn't work. The actual first account that I flipped to a good number was because of my mom. I have to make it work even for her and change things. So when she done that, now the risk it's no longer on me now.
Welcome to another Trader Stories podcast here with Hola Prime. My name is Adrian and today we have Lesiba. So Lesiba, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Adrian. How are you, brother?
I am 100%. Cannot complain. So, you got your payout just yesterday. We were actually on a call just yesterday. We got your payout. How was that? I think before we get into your journey, just tell me a little bit about your payout. I know you're not new to the concept of payouts, so just tell me how this adds into your journey.
No, I think it was amazing, truly speaking, being able to see yourself show up day in, day out, showing up on the charts, putting in the work, testing the things that you are learning, like strategy, risk management, and as well on the props, being able to adjust with Hola Prime in specific, the rules, everything they have going on. So just seeing myself be able to reach payout, it was exciting because I was able to overcome those the risks of the downsides of it. Yeah. So I was excited, and it also added on to the feeling of wanting more, the more I can be disciplined, maybe the more the consistent payouts can show up.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. And I mean, they definitely will. Let's get into that. When did you start trading? Tell me that story.
Yeah, we started when I was 19 years old. I'm now 29 years. But when I was 19, I came across trading. Things are going to change for us. I'm going to give it my all on this thing called trading, and I'm just going to research. I never knew what the results were, but it was just a matter of I'm just going to get as much information from it as possible. And the more I dug in, the more I fell in love, because I would spend nights, the whole night not sleeping. And, I used to go to school. So instead of studying for school, I would rather study about, trading. And I don't get grades, from trading. I don't get anything in school. I'm going to fail. But for me, it made sense to, rather sit and study trading. That's how bad, I just fell in love with it. So since then, we never looked back. Yeah. So it's been now 9 years on the run.
Yeah. Sounds like the boy who had a big dream after seeing that whole thing on TV and seeing your aunt and all of that. It's crazy stuff. So then from there, you started trading. You said you started learning. You were doing research. How did you learn?
Yes, perfect. So one thing that I like, since I mentioned that we started getting access to the internet. So where I lived, it's like a hood, like a neighborhood. So they brought these government public Wi-Fi's whereby as a person you can have access to 500 megabytes of internet access. So every morning I would go there 5 a.m. because 7 it will start being packed. It was at a park, a public park. I'd go there 7 a.m. and then I'd log on 20 Wi-Fi, and then after that I'd punch down the details, whatever that's needed, and then I'd get access to that 500 megabytes. So with that I'd download videos YouTube, courses, things like the 5-hour long videos, 3-hour. I'll try to download as much that I can from those from those megabytes up until I can't use them anymore. Then when I get home, I'll walk back home, then I'll sit down and consume all that information while I'm writing it down, type of a thing. Plus I would have playing it let's say on the phone, trying to see what actually makes sense. Yeah. So I'd go wherever there's internet, but I just wanted internet, and each time I got access to internet, it got me access to the charts, and from the charts just made me want to get more more knowledge, more access. So along the way, when we started making a bit of money as well, we invested in different courses, because I think on the journey maybe I bought 3 courses from trading as a whole. So when we started making a bit of money, we did invest in courses.
Would you say that the courses were the turning point for you? When would you say is the turning point where things, took off quite a bit for you?
Truth speaking, I wouldn't say the actual courses would be the turning point. For me, what always is the turning point is the reason behind like something. Like let's say for instance, the actual first account that I flipped to like a good number was because of my mom took like, she maxed out her credit to fund me because I sold her the idea of like, trading, this is gonna work. So now all this time I was like, hustling, trying to use my money to make it work, but it didn't work. So when she done that, like now the risk was, it's no longer on me now, I have to make it work even for her and like change things how I did promise that like you mixing this thing out is gonna like, change the family situation. So that was like, what pushed me. So luckily that also helped. But the first courses where I spoke with, like I reached out to my dad and I was like, I couldn't afford it, it was tough and I was still losing in the markets, and I asked him to take whatever loans, whatever that he could to, get it for me, and we did. But when I got there, I realized that I knew a bit too much because I already consumed so much information, like a year in, but I was still losing. So when I got there, I knew everything that they were teaching, I had all the answers, like everything felt like it didn't sound new to me, you know what I'm saying?
It's an inspiring story when you think about it. You had I can call it almost like a mentor, but they were close to you before you then went on to go get other mentors. This is it's quite interesting. So I want to ask you a bit now about your trading strategy itself. What do you trade, and what does your typical day in the charts look like?
Yeah, so coming up, we came up from trading forex like as a whole, started off trading all like exotics, majors, and everything. But now we only nailed it down to NASDAQ and gold. So those are the only two that we focus on. Yeah, and in terms of sessions, I look more at the New York session. So I focus more during the New York, like now, during speaking, I'm looking at the markets as we speak, I have my monitor set up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look at that, but like maybe if I can pull it out and then I can just show you a quick setup, like let's say another setup that I saw today in terms of how I look for setups. We use a very basic simple, like in terms of I realized like how I was trading, because like 7 years of experience comes from like trading normal life accounts. So how I would trade it would be, it's okay to take like a late entry, it's okay to execute like anyhow, because that like maybe you'll add up as you go in these specific ways. But with prop firms it's very different. So I also had to adjust in terms of like have a very specific mechanical way that I enter, because on the other side, like even if it breaks resistant and then it comes back as retesting, if it looks too clean, I can execute it on a live account. But on props, it's a bit different. I need like that A grade setup. So how I go about it is, let's just say for instance, right now we'd be looking at, firstly we look at direction of the market. So let's just say we can go on the 1 hour. Normally I trade like I execute from the 5 minutes, but let's just say here we'd be looking at the 1 hour. So just by looking at the 4 hour, we can see that we came from being here, this whole direction going downwards here, lows, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high here, lower low, and then we've got lower high there, and then lower low, and then a lower high. But here you can see when price got here, it failed to have broken these lows. So what we done is that we just respect, and then we went a bit more high, and we didn't really break above here, but we came back, we retested here, and then we went here, failed to break again. And then now with this, we happen to have broken. So once we've broken, here where we are, we broke this previous lower high. So what this means is that now we have basically changed, like in terms of what we see. We're no longer going downwards, we're starting to go upwards from, this is a 4 hours perspective. So that means that like, your 1 hour, your 15 minutes, your 5 minutes, I need to start looking for like direction that's going to allow me to get buy opportunities. So with that, just by looking at that, and then, okay, just by coming now quickly on the 1 hour.
Okay, to the 1 hour.
Yeah. So 1 hour, I'll just like try to see if like, obviously, is it confirming what I've been seeing from the 4 hour? And already I can see that here, yes, we did have this previous structure here that we already had broken. We broke above it here. And after we broke it here, we came back higher low, and then we still went up here, higher high, and then a higher low, higher high, and then a higher low right here. And now here we failed to have broken the highs here. We are still in an upward trend. There could be like maybe price can give us a deeper retrace whereby it could come back to bounce here or somewhere in between, but we're still in an upward trend because we've seen that even on the 4 hour we've broken like into price going upwards. We have to just be able to go through those retracement attempts. But a setup that I saw literally just earlier on was coming back down to the 5 minute, because I execute from the 5 minute. Not this one. No, it was not this. So how we go is we firstly wait for price to go about like breaking these highs, like here, higher high, higher low, higher high, and right here you see higher low, higher high. So this is clean. Already it doing this, it's confirming to me that it's like creating higher highs and higher lows, like it's breaking the previous highs. So right now, when price was somewhere here, as soon as I saw it coming up to take out these highs here, already initially, like here, you can see I have this area that I'm looking at. This is a much more deeper area that I'm looking at. This is for now, but earlier, what I saw is when price got here, we went a bit more up, we came down, and then right here, as soon as we broke above, remember we have to break above. So as soon as we broke above these areas here, as soon as we broke, let me come back down to the 1 minute. Let me open it up this word because I need the, yeah, perfect. We had price break. Now we had confirmed with this break here, and then as soon as price broke above here, you can simply see here at the bottom, this is what actually forced price to push above, because before we broke above, this was the highest low. So now we created a higher high. So as soon as we were up here, we were looking for already a setup to get somewhere in between here. But for those setups to happen, I also look for different things, because this one here, yes, it played out, but I didn't execute it because of the fact that it's out of my session. It was during London session. Plus, on top of that, there's still more confirmations that I need. Like, let's say, for instance, it was clean. It went up. It confirmed it a lot, like higher high. It's now coming back, test out into a higher low. So now obviously we're going up. And maybe if I target a 1:2, so if I execute somewhere here, stops just between 1:2 would be maybe somewhere here. And with the idea that we should be coming for higher highs to take out these previous highs, forming new higher highs, and so on. So this trade can easily turn maybe into as well a 5. But I didn't execute it because I knew that as well prices to come and maybe at some point take out like liquidity. And looking at it, I was like, this could be forming that up, or right here could actually be that liquidity. In fact, even right here where we are, this could be here, because one thing that I like about how I spot liquidity is just before this swing run that we had right here, we had a swing run. So what I do is there should be a retracement, this retracement before that break of that run. Just below it, at least price should be able to come back and test it out in order to grab it, like take it out and then continue going up, which now is going to validate this previous swing low, let's say, for instance. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we've done. That's why I never executed this. And looking at it, so now when price gets here, there's two ways to it. It's either I could, go aggressive with the aggressive method, and with the aggressive method could be more like just executing literally at the touch of this area right here. Obviously, I'd have to look at maybe the 1 minute just so I can be able to spot. You can see this previous bearish candlestick before the bullish candlestick pushed up. This is the one that was able to push up these buyers to create that swing high. You know what I'm saying? So this is the one that I was actually able to push all the way up to here. So as soon as price tapped in here, you see, it's either I can have this aggressive type of an entry, whereby if I'm more like on the laptop, like now it's New York session, I'm more sitting on it, having an entry somewhere here, stops being maybe somewhere below 1:2, somewhere here, 1:2, somewhere here. This can work, it would work. But if I'm coming also with the mindset of, no, but I want to hold it all the way up till maybe swing high, like here, because I know that we're going to be taking out those highs. Remember, I'm coming from as well a bigger time frames perspective. So if I'm still seeing it with that perspective, then what I will do is I'll just try to, open up more room, like just adjust my stop loss a bit, maybe somewhere here. And still, obviously, maybe now my 1:2 would be somewhere here. It changed a bit, but I know that I'm still targeting the swing high. And this just gives it room, so if it wants to maybe, play around, tick out, stop, and then maybe go up, I can still have my stop loss there. Obviously, if it goes down and takes me out, it means that it still wants to go down. My setup didn't work. I can't force it to work, That's why, I have to have these scenarios. I'm even excited now that I'm seeing this like in action like this. It's like, yeah, it's like it's happening like literally live in action. So it would be nice as well to just see like everything that like in terms of like how I mentioned, to just see as well. Because anyways, like after this, looking at it like candlestick close, you have to look at how bullish was the candlestick. Like now I can see we had this first bullish candlestick, we had a second bullish candlestick, but they were not as strong enough. So for me to get that final, like maybe great confirmation, I'd also need the 5 minute. That's why I work with 5 minute and the 1 minute close by looking at them. So I need that if the 5 minute closes with a nice, so I'm still looking at the time here. There's still 2 more minutes. Sometimes you can get there with literally one candle. So there's literal times where I can hit 1:2 in like 3 minutes. But sometimes, since this is a risk entry, it could just like, shoot down as well and take me out, you understand? So that still happens. And with that being said, it can give you like maybe like 3 losses in a row, like you can go through phases like that, 4 losses in a row as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's quite in depth. Thank you. Thanks for that. And I mean, what I took from there, obviously, besides the technical setup that you had, was your adherence to your rules. For as much as a trade looked quite attractive there, you had a rule about which session you trade. You had a rule about when your entry is, as well as a bunch of other rules. And your situation is, I mean, I've seen some traders go off of a maybe like a 3 rule, maybe a three rule set, and maybe they'll have 1 or 2 confluences. They'll have those, and they'll say that's okay for me. Tell me, for you, how strict are you? Does it need to be if you've got 3 rules, all 3 need to be 100%, or is it a case of there are certain give and takes that you have there, here and there?
Yeah, truly speaking, anyways, like, we people, we may make mistakes here and there, and like, sometimes you get punished for those mistakes. And then like, I would be like, oh, it makes sense, let me just try to negotiate with myself here and there and do that. There's no one that's gonna say don't do that. But so maybe I might be punished. It might not be that exact same day. It might be maybe the next day because I'm coming as well with ego, or it might be something, the fact that I was able to allow myself to break a rule. What's stopping myself to allow myself to break a rule again? Not even just in trading, by the way, in anything. Which means that if I don't want people to speak to me in a certain way, and I was able to allow myself to break a rule that I set in the markets, what makes me think that like, these people can respect the rule that I've also set because I break rules that I set. Yeah, so I'm trying to practice trading in real life as well.
Yeah. And I mean, this for me, I mean, you do a lot. It looks like you do a lot of back testing as well, based on what I'm seeing here. Is that something that forms quite a large part of your analysis? Do you do a lot of back testing, or are you not into that too much?
Yeah, I think I spend a lot of time, truly speaking, looking at the markets and not executing, rather like just looking at it, like, understanding some trades. Like I don't even take, and I'll just be managing it like as if I'm running with it. Like, and I'll be like, okay, like let's say for instance, if it's moving like this is how I'm moving my stop loss, like forward testing. In fact, like, let me rather move my stop loss 50%, because it's already at maybe 1% in profits. So I don't want this to run back. If it goes down, take out these lows. It might now, do something else. Or let me just move break even. Let's just say, for instance, then I test which one would work at best. Whatever result that I get, then I should as well be able to note it down and see how I'm moving forward. And sometimes, obviously, I can move break even and then it takes me out and it still goes my direction. And sometimes I start to optimize my plan and then say, maybe, if it does and I still see the setup being valid, maybe I should allow myself to re-enter once more, type of a thing, things like that. But yeah, I spend a lot of time rather looking at the markets and analyzing, just trying to figure it out compared to actually like executing. And I'm trying now to maybe spend more time trying to execute, because there's a lot of also missed opportunity with that. You see a nice clean setup, and you are supposed to execute, even if it's like just a small cash, or even if it's just maybe on a proper account, whatever the case is. And even if it doesn't work out, at least like, you've got that experience as well of being in it, so that's what I'm trying to do now, especially on the prop firm, with the prop firm. So like, at least with whatever trades, rather execute it on like maybe an evaluation account, like type of a thing, or maybe rather like execute on a live account, like with a very small lot size, but just to actually be in it.
Let's go to your evaluation phases. There were 2 accounts that you had, and you ran through both phase 1 and phase 2 without any failure. That is it's something that, it's signs of a good trader. You basically win straight through, right? What did
Yeah.
what did you hold, or was there an ease to it? What were you thinking during those two evaluations before you became funded on both of those accounts? What is the thought process?
No, I think I was prepared. Let me just put it this way, because from like literally just those two evaluations, we may have failed 13 like before, and with those 13, it was like obviously from different firms, and also it was like in relation yeah, like somewhere, not necessarily, I wouldn't say necessarily like the strategy or the skill or whatever, somewhere maybe lack of understanding of certain rules, somewhere maybe not certain rules being that transparent, like the way they say this, but it's not really like when you now they're like, oh no, but it's things like that. Somewhere also like slippages, where slippage now hits your daily drawdowns, things like that. So it's not necessarily like all those failed accounts went to because of risk and losing, but every field account made me learn how to pick the right prop firm account, I mean prop firm to trade with, and how to like actually do the right thing, show up, do what's actually required on my side. So even trading on its own, what to look for, daily drawdowns, maximum drawdowns, like things that I need to look out for, what they allow me to do, all those things. And yeah, I feel like that's why I said I came prepared, because when I found Hola Prime, and I just had to do everything, it felt like it was like every losses that I had on my shoulders stacked up. I felt like now it was like, now this is the way I really had to. It's like when you've been practicing and you've been losing during practice, but you've been learning, but you've been losing during practice, but now you are now at the actual arena. There's tens of thousands of people that are there, and they're there to watch you. So it's either you're gonna stack up all those losses and say I came here to lose, or now you're really gonna take all those losses and flip them into wins. You understand? So that's what we done. We just take those losses and turn them into wins, and yeah.
Sure, that's amazing, man. I mean, there's always, I suppose, everything is a lesson at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. No. So, just to wrap things up, I think we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot of different sections. There'll be a lot for people to go back and digest. There's lots of nuggets and a lot of inspiration, which I think is also quite important. It's just as important. I think a lot of your story is down to that passion, down to having that purpose. It sounds like there's always at different points there were different purposes, and now you have a new purpose, and all it is just a case of just building upon what it is that you have. I don't know if there's anything that you want to, a closing piece of wisdom or a nugget just before we wrap up, and then I'll close us off and we should be good.
Nice. No, that's powerful. Yeah, I like what you just said there. That is true. That's just how things have to unfold. But in terms of just for closing purposes, you don't really have to figure things out. I know it is sold that you have to figure things out. At this age, maybe you have to have this or do this or be here, or I don't know, or whatever that they're selling others, because I'm not but ultimately it all falls back down to what exactly do you want as a person. What excites you, what is your dream life like. When you're sitting down and seeing what you waking up, like, do you want to wake up from an alarm clock going and you have to deal with it, or do you want to wake up and be like, I can't wait to do this? You understand? So it comes back down to those types of things. So you just have to be a person that knows how to choose what you want, and choosing what you want is you have to know how to understand yourself. So most people haven't went through phases where they sat with themselves, so you just have to go through sitting with yourself, understanding yourself, and then knowing exactly what you want. And from there, that will allow you to be able to have that reflect in the markets, because everything that you want, it's literally on these candlesticks. So you'd be able to now have that via this, using this as a vehicle. And yeah, man, there's a lot of opportunity on the market. There's a lot that people can gain. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of things that people can benefit from. But at the end of the day, work has to be done, and just have to show up at the end of the day, bro. There's nothing else. Just have to show up and continue stacking up that knowledge. And yeah, man, those lessons, those losses, they eventually become something. So you just have to work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned wait, just before you mentioned something because I wanted to say something in accordance with what you mentioned at the end, but it just slipped. I don't know what was that final piece that you mentioned.
The
Or
final
purpose.
piece.
Oh, purpose, purpose,
Purpose.
purpose.
Yeah.
So
Purpose. Yeah.
yeah, purpose. Just in terms of that on its own, like as words of because I once lost my purpose in the markets, so I had to
Okay.
find it. That's having a meaning in it, like being able to know. Okay, I'm not trading to maybe pay for rent, or I'm not trading to have the latest shirt, or whatever the case is. But build a purpose, build a meaning, build something that is much more deeper than the red days, the green days, the payout. Something that's much more bigger than whatever, much more bigger than even you. And that's just it. So you need to ultimately find your purpose, and the markets will be able to be used as a vehicle that is honest, that is good. You don't have to do anything wrong to other people, and that can help you get there regardless of what you want, what you are, or who you want to be. If you want to be a truck driver, you can buy as many trucks as humanly possible using the markets. You understand? So whatever that you want to do, go for it, but using the markets. Yeah.
Most definitely. This is powerful, powerful words, powerful words. And no, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for showing us the markets, inspiring me, inspiring others. And yeah, this is the information I think we don't see when we see these highlight reels on social media. This is the actual information that people need. But most definitely, thank you for your time and thank you for being here today.
Hola Prime. Trade with transparency.